question from after last night.
Mm-hmm.
It's, there was a point about 2 years ago in my life where I felt I really I saw, like, I was looking at the mind a lot and seeing what's happening there and the movements and all these things, and it really felt like it felt really good, and I felt a lot of moments of really just peace and wonder, and at a certain moment, like, and it was for a few months, I don't know exactly, but of this, and I didn't do much. I was just I was working in the field. I was just sitting a lot and taking walks, and there was a certain point where I just felt like I want to go back to life.
Yes.
Like there was a separation between this experiencing and being in the relationships and working and being in the world, and I felt like maybe I could take this into this, or like I felt that I want somehow to be more involved, and
Yes.
and the feeling I had there, it was, I don't know, like there was self or no. What I felt most of the thing I can most express was I felt like there was a presence always also here all the time, and I could feel it, and it just gave me, like, I could relax into it, and that was it. And when I went back to life, then I really got involved, and like you talked about yesterday, a lot of different motivations, and since then, it's really it's difficult to be.
So what happened was that as this process was going on,
Mm-hmm.
there was also, by and by, simultaneously, mind was already interpreting this. This is why you were feeling there are two.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, this was basically interpreted as not interesting enough. So you were drawn back to your old interests, to where you find interest and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only question is now where is this fire of inquiry now? Because it is only this fire of inquiry that really, this seeing that out there, what we feel is out there, what the mind sees is out there, there must be this seeing that there is really nothing. Not in the sense that there is something wrong with experiencing the world and the relationship. There is nothing wrong about it. The problem is the one who experiences it has to see the emptiness of its own experiences as long as it is there. See? So everything leaves it empty, basically. If you observe your experiences, you see they are all, how, no matter what they are, how beautiful they are, how fulfilling they seem to be, eventually you feel empty because this entity that owns them is constantly hungry. And at the bottom of it, there is nothing. So whatever food you put, it's instantly gone. So this infinite hunger, this begging, see this feeling of begging for more experiences, more sensations. At some point, there is this insight that it's impossible to live like that. Mm-hmm. And then there is this fire of inquiry, which is stronger than the interpretations of the mind about it. Then mind has no power to interpret it as what it did in your case, that suddenly the mind was saying, yeah, this is very nice, but
That's
yes,
something else.
Yes. So basically now, when you're living life again through this identity,
Mm-hmm.
it is only your clarity if this is how you really want to live. Because if you want to live like this, you can. You see, nothing prevents it, but there is inherent suffering in it.
Yes.
And the only question, how deeply you sense this suffering, how deeply you sense it, and how deeply you see the cause of it. Because when this cause is actually seen truly, then there is no other way to go, only what we call inside. I say what we call because there is no inside and outside, but at this point of view, when we look at life as an outside, when it is seen, when the cause of suffering is truly seen, clearly seen, then there is only the way to go inside, to burn away all these limitations, all these borders through which we live, through which we define ourselves. So it is really only about your clarity now and your sensitivity to how you live. And you see that you should not force it in any way. It is a beautiful sprouting of our own intelligence. This is the only way it can happen. It cannot happen by any kind of force, because any kind of force means, again, another motivation. Someone is there that wants to go somewhere, and there is always why. To go somewhere to experience something because it wants something from this. Mm-hmm. The only option is this beautiful flowering of this intelligence which you are, living life like this, living life from this center, from this I, and seeing really what is the essence of life in this condition. Mm-hmm. This is what brings back this fire. It will come by itself if you don't block your sensitivity to how life is really from this position. Because life already has all the lessons. You see, every experience is already revealing to you the limitations of it. The only thing is that usually we don't want to see it. There is some kind of resistance to it. But if you don't block it, then this readiness to light this fire again will come rather quickly. Because you see, any experience of dissatisfaction which you must have, yes? If you don't rationalize it, like saying it was caused by this, by something.
I need this, or
yes. If you don't let your mind, again, if you don't believe the interpretations of your own mind, mm-hmm. but you really look at this experience of suffering, of dissatisfaction, of discomfort, every single experience of discomfort holds this wisdom inside of it. Mm-hmm. It is only because we rationalize that we continue this game. Then you think, yes, something must have caused it. I need to change my circumstances. I need to change this and that. And the game continues. But if you directly see it, if you face it, then suddenly you see it. You see exactly that it is not caused by any of this. It is this dissatisfaction. The root of it is this how you see yourself, how you define yourself, the definition you wear. And then this fire to inquire into this, we can say the necessity, the intelligence sees the necessity to inquire into this because it sees that it is blocking its own light, it is blocking its own beauty, its own rest, its own peace, its own harmony. So then you will see naturally how this fire comes.
Another thing you said, it's about this trust, or about maybe this is also something that was missing to keep going.
Yes. Yes. Yes, there must be patience in the sense that you are inquiring but not waiting for anything. There is no expectation. It is inquiry for the sake of inquiry. Yeah. That's the difficult part. You see, it is inquiry for the sake of inquiry. This moment of inquiry is on all that is. It is beautiful on its own. It is important on its own. So when mind looks upon itself and sees itself, when thinking sees itself as thinking, this is all that matters. It is not for anything. You see? It is not expecting something to happen afterwards. So this is a kind of waiting, but not waiting for something. It is a kind of a patience, a deep patience, which we can also say trust, that everything takes it on its own course. It's all okay. And you're not doing this for anything to happen. You see, then it is intense. It is only this seeing. This seeing is It is like your whole intelligence at this moment is here. It is not split to here and what will happen after. It is intensely here. It is totally here. You're just seeing. Your whole being is seeing at that moment. That's where the clarity comes. But when our seeing is just we are seeing, but mostly we are already expecting something to happen as a result of this seeing, then in fact this expectation is much, much bigger than the energy that we give to the seeing.
Yeah.
So this is, yes. This expectation, if you observe your life, you will see that we are constantly in some kind of expectation. Mind is constantly in a kind of expectation. There is always this tension between what appears to happen now and what will happen later. So there's always, it is never just what is here. So what is here can never be truly seen, can never be truly recognized, because there is always this split going on. Something is already expecting something to happen, and this expectation is already part of the interpretation of what is happening now. So it is an endless story happening, and then the result is that we are never truly here, we are never truly ourselves, we are never truly just present, just aware. It is always in some context that this happens. There is always some context. I'm here as someone already, as somebody, and I'm expecting something to happen in the context of this somebody. There are many things that can happen to this somebody, so it is already seeing them in its apparent future, expecting them or fearing them, or wanting them or don't wanting, or rejecting them, and so forth. But if we can find ourselves just present without any context, as we truly are right now, then these expectations, this movement of expectation, it falls, it disappears. Because you can only expect when you are moving from knowledge. If you're simply present, what kind of expectation will happen? What would you expect? You are resting in the unknown, in the undefinable. Then expectation has nowhere to cling to.
I mean, like if I say, now I'm happy, then there will be fear of not being happy?
Immediately this happy is an incredibly large context, which has many, many connotations to it. And they are all rising to life the moment you affirm to yourself that you are that which you have spoken, which your mind has spoken about. But if this speech of the mind, if this thought is exposed as just a thought, and you remain simply here, free from this context which your mind suggested, then suddenly you see that all the cards fall, and there is nothing to expect naturally, because there is no one here that defines itself in any context. But usually, again, to allow ourselves to be like this, mind has to first see its own fears, because we usually are quite afraid to be in this way. We have been practicing many years, we have been taught this way, that we always have to be someone, we always have to be something, we must know who we are, what we are. Socially, we are constantly suggested to define ourselves. So we are, basically all our systems, even our nervous system, is basically trained to constantly look for definitions. What is here? Who am I? And if the answer is not found, then there is tension suddenly, there is fear, there is this judgment of unworthiness, or all these emotional things are coming on. So all these protective systems of the mind, they must be seen, so that we can pierce through them and allow ourselves just to be this presence, which is the case already, which we already are, always are, just present, just conscious. We are not that definition which the mind says we are. We are not that person which the mind says we are. It is much more immediate. It's much more whole. This moment can never be contained in any definition, in any idea we have about ourselves. It is much more complete, much more whole. This conditioning of the mind to be able to resonate only with definitions has to be exposed and dissolved by this exposure. Then we can resonate with reality as it is. We can resonate with just being ourselves, not with words, ideas, concepts, contexts, and interpretations. Because see, everything constantly simply happens by itself. We are simply here, we are simply present. Nobody is doing this. Where is the definition? Where is the context? Every one of us was a child, and when we were children, where was this context of what we believe ourselves to be now? Were we not there, present? Were we not what we are now? So where was this definition? Where was this I that each one of us carries right now? When we were children, we were free from this. And there was no problem. We could still function, we could still live. We could actually look at this reality with the eyes of wonder. And suddenly this whole context from our past knowledge, experiences built up, and now we feel we are this entity that has so many points of view, so many opinions, so many problems, so many things to do, to solve. So where did it come from? Why is it being approved every moment as true? That's the real question, because it rises every moment. When we say where did it come from, it came from now. Now it comes from the mind, and now it comes from the mind. Every moment it comes from the mind. The only question is, why are we approving this? Why is it not being put to the light? Why is it not being exposed as what it truly is, just an idea? Why is the mind constantly approving itself from its past knowledge, from its past experiences? Where is the need for that? Functionally, memory is there. There is no need to create an entity out of memory. There is no need to create a person. Memory is simply functioning already. When you can take the example of driving a car. When you drive a car, you don't need to remember anything. The whole system already knows how to drive, and that's how all the systems work. Memory is retained. It is remained. It is intact. But why is it being animated as a person and then trying to live itself as this frozen entity which made out of these bits of functional memory? Why is it being approved instead of exposed, instead of challenged, seen as it truly is?
It looks like it. When I look at my son, he's 4.5, and he really feels it himself, and he's very, I am Noam. He says it very strongly.
Yes, because he was already conditioned at this age to do this. Yes.
So, but I mean, so when looking, you look and you look inside, and it looks different. Like the seeing.
I'm not sure I understand.
When I look at you and I look at Moran, it doesn't look like the same thing. So it seems, okay, so this is a different thing from that thing.
Yes, because instantly mind moves from its conditions, which says the form, inside the form there is the essence. It's already reapproving its own points of view, its own knowledge. It's never checking this actually. So just for example, yes, can you look at this form and be free from this knowledge, this addition that there is a person inside, Just observe, because your senses don't say it. Your senses just see this movement of this body. They hear the speech, but they don't tell you that there is a person, there is an entity inside, right? So the mind adds it up. Yes, it already moves from its context, and it begins actually not here. It begins there, because first mind says that you are this I, you are this center, you are this entity inside this form, and therefore, when you look at this form, any form, you think, yeah, there are entities inside each form. There's a person like I am. Everyone is. You see, the moment you expose that, maybe you actually don't know what is here. When there is this inquiry comes, investigation, mind looking at its own ideas as ideas, it no longer instantly approves them as truth, as reality, but it actually able to look at it and see it is thinking. I'm thinking. See, it is an idea. It is just a thought. Suddenly you have this feeling that there is presence here, but it is not defined. And the moment you feel this, that you are actually may not be the person the mind tells you are, you will see suddenly the whole world simply appears differently to you at that moment. So it is very, very subtle and happens very, very fast, because it is a habit of looking from these positions. But if you investigate, you will see it is not hiding, it is not covered. You can investigate, you can see it. Mind can see its own ideas as ideas. That's the beauty. If it wants to, it can see it. If it is ready to see the truth of itself, it can. There's nothing hiding it. See, only the desire to not see it, basically to keep the game going, to live in those ideas, to live in those concepts, to hide behind them, to cover itself, to create this illusion of safety. You see, when you're looking at the form, you're not really seeing what your mind is telling you. Can you just allow this to be very, very simple, very direct, very immediate, and identify this addition, how the mind narrates this experience and already creates it anew. It already interprets it in a whole different way. The senses don't give this information. This is where the key is. Yes, this is where it begins. It all begins there when mind enters. It uses, it owns all this central information, perception, and basically simply covers it with its own interpretation. It already tells its own story about what it sees. It already creates a viewer, an observer, which is what basically, what is this observer? It is basically just a collage of many, many memories, past experiences, pieces and pieces and pieces. And so it creates this kind of collage and animates it as if it was a real thing, a real being, like a real entity, a real center. And this is why this is constantly collapsing, and that's why mind is so anxious to reapprove itself all the time, because it is aware of this. It is aware that if it doesn't reaffirm itself, then it starts to feel that it is disappearing actually. This is why we were speaking about trust, and when there is trust, then this can actually be allowed to happen. There is no automatic protection to recreate yourself. You allow this to fall. And you start to see that after every experience, basically it is falling apart. It is only by your effort that you recreate your idea of yourself. You recollect yourself. You actually recollect yourself each and every time.
see what you're saying, I don't. It's like I feel it's like in contradiction to, for example, that if I'm cold, you're not feeling it.
Yes.
That I don't understand how it can be at the same time.
Why not? Because there is already a preconceived context for this. What if it just happens like this? It is a fact. There is cold is felt there, and it is also a fact cold is felt there or there. And yes, you see, this is just a simple fact. But on top of this fact, there is already an explanation, which is the interpretation of the mind. So, from this question, can we sense all these sensations of the body, also emotional sensations, and all the things that appear, everything, without explaining it, without defining it, without interpreting it, just allowing it to be a mystery as it is? Can the mind allow this to happen? See? This is where the courage, or we can say the maturity of mind, comes into being. Can it stay silent about this, just as it is? So it doesn't pose any counter to this, any relativity to this. Because the moment it is defined, there is already a movement. Then it could be different. Then something is wrong. But if this is total, if this is the totality, this moment is just as it is, and there is no need to define it, there is no need to narrate it, there is no need to control it, there is no need to understand it even, then you see, then this beingness which is happening now, suddenly it can be recognized. It is subtle. It doesn't shout itself. This presence doesn't shout itself, I'm here. It doesn't express itself. It doesn't need to. It doesn't need anything. It simply is, unconditionally. So this is why when mind is silent, when it is transparent like pure water, then it can reflect this beauty of just beingness, of just this mysterious conscious existence as it is, as we are.
It feels like all this sensation and the sight, the sound, like it's all going into
something is trying to own it into some
like it's going into
interpretation.
a
Yes.
thing that sees and
Yes, this
physically.
this is what needs to be exposed all the time. Exactly this one, this movement. You see,
Mm-hmm.
how this simple experience, pure experience of simply feeling, sensing, whatever is happening, how it all being owned by something. So yes, this movement which you described, like there is constantly this something is grabbing, yes. Just allow this to be observed, just allow this to be recognized. There is no need to fight it, there is no need to do anything about it. There just must come clarity to this phenomenon. How the mind is functioning, how it recreates reality instead of being part of it. It creates it, interprets it, lives in its own interpretation. So if this moment is, you feel this moment as if it is lacking something, ask yourself for whom it is lacking. What is the context which feels that this moment is lacking something? And you will find out there is already a context there which interpreted this moment, and from this interpretation the lack comes. And this happens every moment, basically. So no moment is really enough, because there is always this gap. Because any interpretation, any idea about what is happening, about what we are, is always limited. It is always partial. And in front of this partiality, there are infinite possibilities already, that create this tension. But what if this moment is all there is? It is perfect just as it is all the time. What can see this? What can perceive this moment as perfection? Mind cannot. But there is something that can. We can. That which is present here, which is simply present and conscious here, already knows the perfection of itself, the perfection of this moment, as it is. Because we are this moment.
So like take difficulty in making choices and choices in general. It is
Yes.
because of this
The chooser.
reference to,
Yes.
like you said, that it's limiting, so there are this endless,
You want to ensure something. Again,
yeah.
this I, the center, wants to ensure something.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore the experience of choice comes.
To ensure, what do you mean?
To ensure that what will happen will be according to what it wants to happen. How it perceives it should happen.
How it should
To its
how
own
it perceive
filters.
itself now.
Yes, to its own filters.
Mm-hmm.
This is where choice comes into being.
Yeah.
Because you see, choice is basically non-existent. There is only happening. For instance, you are choosing if you... there is only action. Only action. You are acting many, many times in daily life without feeling a choice.
Yeah.
Because it is simple. Mind doesn't create any kind of expectation because it is insignificant, we can say. Yes?
Yeah.
So like you come into this room and you need to decide where to sit, you just sit. You can say it was a choice, right? But it wasn't experienced as choice. Whenever you want to ensure, according to this idea of yourself, how things will happen, then there is a conflict, then there is a dilemma, then you enter into your imagination, you start to imagine how things will happen, and because it is just imagination, you can never find your way out of it, because you can never be sure it will happen this way, so then this tension of choice comes,
And fear.
and fear. But if you simply allow action to take place out of trust, then you will see that there is no choice. There is no need to be the chooser. Everything simply happens. Action simply happens. Activity simply takes place.
Trust and patience.
Hmm?
Trust and patience.
Yes. Because you see, the chooser is imprisoning itself in being a chooser. No matter what will happen, it is already trapped in this fear, in this tension.
It needs to
It doesn't matter if things will happen as you want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
There is already this gap between you and life. And you are living this tension, this fear. And if that doesn't matter if your choice will happen your way or not. Because immediately after there will be another expectation, another fear.
No choice.
This gap is simply happening all the time. So the one who creates this gap, the one who is responsible for this two-ness, for this distance between life and you, has to be exposed. Who is this you apart from life? Yes? Who is this I, who is this center that we feel ourselves apart from what takes place already, apart from this life, beingness that happens? You see, it only happens in the realm of thought. It is nowhere to be found. Everything simply happens, already unified, already one, already in harmony. So where is this two coming to being, this me and life? How are they created? Can we trace it? Can mind trace this phenomenon? How it creates itself, and in front of itself, the idea of life, which it always finds lacking, and always tries to fix or to fight. How is this phenomenon taking place? Can we trace it, directly see it, as it happens?
Lots of images. I feel images of like for choices, for example, there's a lot of images of what will be.
But
or
will
what
be
was.
for whom? There is already somebody for whom it will be, you see. All images are already relative to me, to this sense of I.
I am in them.
Yes, I am the one. I am the object, the subject of these seeings, of these things that might happen. They might happen to me. There is already the me, and these happenings are simply the second part of this creation of me and my reality. See, it is not in the reality that we suffer. It is in my reality that we suffer. When there is my reality, then there is suffering. Then there is this distance. Then there is this gap, because reality is just happening already, perfectly as it is.
You said you will work when it is necessary. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Like now, like speaking. When it is necessary, then it functions, but transparently.
Without the identity, you mean?
There is no identity. It is
Yeah.
just functioning. It no longer creates itself as something separate from this moment.
So that is the difference.
Yes. Because the capacities of mind are beautiful. They remain. They're not going anywhere. There is nothing useless in this reality. The capacities of mind are necessary.
So there could still be interest.
Interest is not functional.
So there is nothing.
There can be a contextual interest, like
Like
not something
you have
that
a hobby.
drives you. There is nobody to drive anymore, you see. You are life itself. You become life itself. You become this moment itself. You are constantly the wholeness of this moment. There is nothing missing. So everything that appears is joy. Now in this contextual appearance, there might be some contextual movement, but it is transparent,
If
it
you
is
don't
it
play
is
the
clean.
piano, then because it's not functional.
Yeah,
You
it
don't
just
need it.
it just happens. There is nobody that dependent on anything, on any functioning, on anything to happen, you see. If it happens, it happens. Whatever happens is precise, is complete, is total. There is no gap. There is no option for anything to happen differently, you see. When mind is quiet, you experience this moment as totality, because it's truly what it is. The only reason why you experience it differently is because you don't really experience this moment, but you experience the version, how your mind sees this moment. And when your mind sees this moment, it's already part of many, many, many other options that it can see it. Therefore you feel this could be differently, or it should be differently. But when you become this moment, there is no longer this narrator. Mind is completely silent. So this moment is complete. It is total. It is the totality. So there is no longer any need for anything. And there is nobody that has any need. Because you are this moment, you are this life, you are this beingness. There is no separation between anything that happens and you. There are no two anymore. Mind cannot understand this. It can never understand this. But it doesn't need to, you see. It doesn't need to. It only needs to understand itself. When it understands itself, then it falls into this. It surrenders to this source, which you are. You are the source of mind. We are the source of mind. We are not mind. Mind doesn't need to understand this reality. It doesn't need to. It cannot. It doesn't have the capacity to understand this. And it doesn't need to. It can relax. It can surrender itself. Then it becomes a perfect tool. It doesn't create any disturbance anymore. It is like a pure lake, pure water, reflecting this infinite reality.
I'd like to ask about the intensity of life. I feel that this paying attention, it needs energy.
Yes.
And when life is demanding on the outside, it seems that there's so much less. I mean, that's been experienced in the last 2 years. To put the energy.
Yes. But can you investigate for a moment what makes it so demanding? is it objectively demanding, or is the experience of demand is because there is somebody who already translates it as demanding because it is important to it to happen in a certain way. Therefore, it is paying a lot of attention where it may not be needed so much. It cannot relate simply to an event because these events hold a lot of weight. Therefore, any simple event becomes a demanding one that requires, as if, a lot of energy. But is it really the circumstance, the happening itself that demands it, or is it the one who is looking on this event, and what it wants from it? See? If you want something very badly, then you are very tense. You approach in a tension, you approach in an anxiety, then everything is very demanding. So this one that is approaching this life, that is approaching life situations, again, it needs to be seen. So at first, there must be a trust and agreement to see what happens if you let loose a little bit. Yes. There must be, if this interest is sincere, to investigate the one who is approaching and not seeing itself, then there will be readiness to actually do that, to loosen. You don't need to do anything drastic, but there must be readiness to let loose. Slowly let loose, yes. And see what happens, and see what happens, you see? Then you will start to see that there is actually nothing really dramatic happens, it's all okay, but there is somebody that is...
needs to take control. To do
yes, and it is the one you will start to see how this one creates, translates, interprets very, very simple events into tense ones, dramatic ones that hold a lot of weight.
What I feel that it's actually needed, that I need to do this change now to allow
Yes.
to allow this space
Yes.
in life that hasn't existed in the last 2 years, let's say. And it's like it's like needs to happen, and I just in some way like acknowledgement that it's true, that space is required. It's not something that it does need energy, the looking and the
If you really recognize the importance of this,
yeah.
then it will already start to happen, because this is the law of life. It will already take place. You will see how this comes into being. But not out of fighting life in order to make this happen. See? If you fight life, keeping this idea that you must have this free time, for example, and this creates an antagonism to life in some way, then this antagonism will take all this energy and it will not manifest. You understand what I mean? Like, for example, you say, I really need to have this time off, and then you wake up in the morning and you are already antagonistic to your day because you think that it should be different because you need to have a time off and you have so much work to do. So this very meeting, this very perception of life in this way is already drawing all your energy and actually not allowing you the rest that you want, that you need. But while on the other hand, if you actually see the need for simply observe, rest, be, and there is no antagonism with life, life is accepted as it is, with all the circumstances as they are, you will be surprised because you will see how even though your day may not change, it may change a little bit, but even if it doesn't change, suddenly there will be more space. Because you only give yourself what you really need. It is you who provides. It is not something out there that provides to you. See, this is where the confusion is. When mind thinks it has to be provided from outside, then it starts to fight, again, inside its own interpretations. Then this fight depletes your energy and creates this suffocation. But when you, in truth, you are providing to yourself. So when the real need arises, it is already answered. If you really feel that you need this space, if you're really serious about it, I can guarantee that you will see it happening. Just don't make it a contrary to your life. Don't make it an enemy. Don't make your life an enemy to this. Don't create this split, because then you will be depleted, then you will be antagonistic, then you will not be able to actually allow this to happen. But if there is acceptance, first acceptance, change will come later, then you will see the options to let loose, it will come by itself, by this clarity which will open up. First acceptance, first life is just what it is. Just let go of all this, it should be different, where is, I need this, I need that, just equanimity, peace, acceptance. Let mind not narrate it if you can, not judge it, not create an opinion about it, just accept it in a simple way. Then see how this need to have this clarity comes into being. It will come into being. You will find it. You will find it even in daily life. You will start to experience even the same experiences with more space. And with this will come also clarity, very spontaneous clarity, how you can shift a little bit your life to give you what you need. And you will see that it is absolutely possible. The fixations are only in this.
I'm starting to see also what
yes. Yes. It will just happen.
I feel it's connected to there's like when I was sitting outside, like at the beginning what I said about love, and I saw that the basic the fear of being unlovable, let's say.
Yes.
And it's very connected with I, very connected, and I can see and I can understand. If I see everything connected to the I, it's very easy to really understand that it's just an image. But there's something that feels real about this one, and I see how from that place so many activities, even what about the work, because it's like I have no right to take care of myself because I'm unworthy. So it's like not allowed even. It's not about what the work gives me. It's not really at all. I don't care about that.
But there is some kind of definition there, yes. Some kind of definition that gives you the sense of safety of being what you are.
I see. Yes.
You see?
Yes.
So you feel safe as being this unworthy self, and then it is threatened by letting loose.
What will happen, yes.
Yes, what will happen? Who will I be without this, see? So this has to be seen, and then the necessities are very clearly seen. You act intelligently. You will always act intelligently, don't worry, because you are intelligence. So there will always intelligent activity will be happening. Only this, all these covers, all these definitions, all this, they have to be seen. And again, there should be trust. Then you will be able to do it, even if mind creates this tension, this fear. If there is trust, if you really feel, this is what I need, you also trust that you will find a way out of the consequences that will follow. You're creative, see? You will be creative, because you are creativity. That's what we are. There is always creativity here. So whatever is the case, there is always an intelligent action that can happen. Yes. It is only the fear of the idea, because the reality is never really threatening, it's never really impossible. Only the ideas about it. Because here and now there is always some creative action that can happen and will happen by itself.
So it's the same. I'm just thinking about expressing in the world and dreams and visions for the future and all things like this. I'm just wondering what like it all goes, or it's part of the...
Who has the need for those? Ask yourself, who has the need to, apart from the functional intelligence, okay, if you want to do something for living, you have to learn it. It's okay. You need to plan you have to go to the school or whatever you need. These are simple things. They are not charged emotionally.
Yes.
They are simple functions. But apart from that, who has the need to see itself in any kind of future? Can you really see yourself? Just pay attention. Can you see yourself in future? Or can you only see the idea of yourself in future?
The idea, and
Yeah.
it feels good.
And also,
Like it feels like it will be good to see myself.
because
Yeah.
right now you also don't see yourself.
Mhm.
You see your idea. You see that's
About-
the tragedy of how we live, basically. You see, now you see yourself as an idea, and therefore you only play with those ideas. So you push this idea to the future,
Mhm.
or you go back to your ideas of yourself in the past.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to give you meaning. This is supposed to give you fulfillment. It can never give you this. You see, it is inherently empty. It is just images.
Yeah.
But what is really here, what is truly present here, this is not an image, this is not an idea. So can you embrace this presence? Can you really embrace what you are, you see?
Mhm.
Then, when you embrace yourself as you are right now, these ideas of some kind of you in future past will be seen as they are, utterly meaningless. Because you will see there is no you in any future or past. You are always this.
Yeah.
You are only this. You were never in any past. You were never in any future.
Yes.
It is in this moment that the imagination and memory are taking place, but they are not pointing to you. They are pointing to images, to these interpretations of mind.
So it's never really me.
It's never you.
Yeah.
And so this is the revelation that can happen if mind for a moment stops its covering up its interpretations. Then this can be seen. That this is what we are. We are this presence, simple presence. We are not the image. We are not the idea of ourselves.
Okay, so what can be true security? If because at the moment it's clear that if all I see is an image of myself in the future or in the past, so the security that I believe in the daily life that it gives me, it can't be real because it's based on something which is not real.
Of course.
But somehow
Who needs security, you should really ask.
somehow it is believed by this whoever is here that this is the security. And when you talk about letting go and
But just
of the mind, then it feels insecure. But actually, maybe
yes, but just pay attention. This security that you feel is already a response to how your mind interprets insecurity. You understand? It is a game. Because your mind is approving without challenging this, that this is insecurity, it looks at life as this movement into the unknown, the one I cannot predict. I cannot understand what will happen, I cannot know. And it translates it, interprets it as insecurity.
yeah. When you
And-
tell me you
and for
can't
this
go
interpretation-
to the past, you can go to the future just now. So suddenly I
Yes.
feel very scared.
So just pay attention. It is for this idea, for this interpretation of insecurity, that mind poses the idea of security and tries to reach it. Is this the reality? You see, when this moment, when what you really are here and now is revealed as the complete security, as the totality of beingness, where is the question of security? Who needs the security? When this is seen, when the illusion of insecurity, this is just a concept, just an idea created by wrong interpretation, basically. When it is seen, then who has the need to create security? You see, all those so-called needs that the mind plays with, they're not real needs. They're all play of concepts.
So actually, the only security that there is not needing security. Like only when you don't need the security, then you are secure.
Security and insecurity and all opposites are just a game that the mind plays with the ideas of how it perceives what is here. Who is here that needs security? See, who is the one that is insecure? You see, this is the interpretation of mind. I am that which is insecure. Now, if that can be seen now as it truly is, just an idea, then you will see how the need for any kind of security will fall away naturally. It is because this idea is not exposed that you believe yourself to be something which is insecure. You are this creature, you are this body mind, you are this, you see, all of this, all that the mind tells you you are, is interpreted as basically insecure. Many things can happen, I don't know, and so forth. And our mind creates an illusory remedy for this by creating this movement towards what it thinks to be secure. So the only question is, can this be exposed? Can this concept of being insecure, who is this I that is insecure, can it be really seen as it is? Just a thought, just a concept, just an idea, that is all. This is not what is here. This is not what is present here. Can you see it? Can you see that this presence here is not defined by this idea? It is free from this idea.
But it's, when you talk in general, then, but if I'm thinking like what was said here, quitting my job, yeah? Then it's not going to be possible because there is a lot of fear. So I'm still...
You are still trying to interpret this into action. You're trying to...
Yes, I'm too busy.
But it is not... There is already somebody there that is busy with that. It already wants to achieve something. You are still acting from your idea. This idea is still not exposed. You're acting from the idea of yourself and trying to externally appease it. Just investigate who is behind it. Who do you believe yourself to be? Is it truly who you are? Is it truly what is here? Can mind be courageous enough to actually see that what it speaks about, what it points to, what it defines, what it believes is not what is here? Can it allow this? You see, this is the only question for everyone. Can mind allow this be itself and not impose itself on it? Can we see the difference between what we think about ourselves and what we are right now? Can we sense this presence without the concepts, without the ideas, without what we usually think about ourselves? Can we just let this experience be free from all of that? Can we not act again through this fear, through this interpretation that if I let go what I know about myself, I will be nothing or something terrible will happen or there will be no meaning? Can we see that this is all simply irrelevant ideas, they are not true? Can we have enough courage and sincerity to really investigate and face our own reality? This is paradoxical that we say it, but really we are already the case. We are already here simply unconditioned by mind. This presence is already free. It's already what it is. Just for a moment let mind step away from this and it will be seen. There is nothing covering it, only this dramatic, anxious mind which constantly moves here and needs to define, needs to say what it is, what it sees, who we are. If it rests for a moment, if it is silent for a moment, if it is transparent for a moment, then this can shine, this can be seen. If we can only glimpse into the value of what is here, then we can slowly move our trust from trusting these ideas to trusting what is. Then life will be transfigured, life will be transformed. It can start now. If you just glimpse that there is something here that is not touched by any idea that we have, it is not touched by any thought. And if you can just see the value of this, truly sense it directly, then slowly we have this opportunity to move our trust from constantly relying on thinking, on concepts, to rely on this. What is? Suddenly what is becomes a value on its own. Suddenly we are not looking for value through our library of concepts, but we find value in what is. Look how beautiful this can be. Because what is your constant experience. You're constantly in what is. Life is what is. All the time, what is? This isness. So if we can find meaning in this isness and not in our library of knowledge and concepts and ideas, see how beautiful this can be, how restful we can start to be. And no matter what happens, even if we work a long day, for example, again, you see this clears all the space. Because there is a breath of freedom in the revelation. The function of the body is minute in this. Because when this grace, this magnificence is realized, the beauty of this, the value of this, then this frees. It is like immense force breathes into this system. Then you will be surprised. You can do double the work that you're doing and you're not getting tired. The body has immense capacities in the mind also. It is just being depleted by this constant self-referral. So really it is in our hands to free this energy, to free this from this constant prison of self-referring to an image, to an idea. We can live this life, we can be this life. We don't need to look on the idea of life from an idea of self.
So why when I'm thinking to myself now, so okay, I have all this energy now from the conversation, so are you ready to leap into what is and just see what happens? And I'm like, no! There is something still...
Yes, there is identification. Yes, there is strong identification, which is connected to the idea of security again. Somehow you feel that, you are secure in your concepts, in your ideas, even in your suffering.
This is the hell that I know.
Yes. Yeah. Life is an immense adventure. So be adventurous, be courageous. Yes. See how huge a potential existence has. Don't limit yourself to living like this idea of this creature which is constantly struggling, constantly in tension, constantly in some kind of anxiety and fear. This is not what you are. This is just a passing phase. So this is the time to actually see what is contributing to the state of separation, to the state of constantly looking upon something which is inherently unreal and trying to match life to this constant struggle matching the idea of life to the idea of me. It is insane. How are you? Are you tired? Should we take a break?
Maybe want some tea or coffee?
I can ask something more.
Yeah, okay.
I don't remember exactly what you said, but about seeing this a lot of movement or little movement of mind, thoughts and images, and also at the same time maybe feeling also presence or awareness or and then sometimes it's like I don't know if you say a choice, but there is a going with this or staying with this.
Yes.
Is it something you can relate to? Is it like
Yes, slowly there will be more trust in this and there will be less pull. It is basically what happens is that mind is observing this so-called experience. It translates it as an experience, and even though you are already sensing this presence, the taste of this presence, mind is looking and already creating this kind of feeling that, okay, what's next? Basically,
Yeah.
what's next? Okay, I understand. It's
Yes.
already created an image of this.
Mm.
So the more you trust this, the more value you realize directly in this, the less force these interpretations will create and the less they will pull you. At some point, there will be no pull. Or it will be, after a long time, it will be very subtle.
yeah,
Because at the beginning, it is like they are almost the same. Like the interpretation of the mind and the experience, they are like, they have the same value. But when this value is realized, the real value of this, then this loses. This becomes irrelevant. Whatever mind says is already irrelevant. So then it will be only basically an energetic thing, because this transition is changing there's some energetic change happens in the system, and you will basically not be able to sustain this intensity for very long. So at some point there will be this, you will have to move back into the familiar ground of activity, and it is perfectly natural. But it will not be out of this psychological need to respond to the interpretation that it is boring or it is meaningless or what's next and so forth. It will only be pure energetic phenomenon of adjustment.
Mm. That I will be pulled back to this. It will just happen.
Yes, it is not just this depth will reach certain intensity, and then you will feel like, okay, there will be no more energy basically to be in that condition, and you will come back to this natural functioning. But more and more it will be adjusted until at some point the whole system is basically tuned to that intensity. Yes.
Yeah. It's funny how it happens sometimes. It's like I really in this and then okay, now I need to start the day. Let's go back into like all this.
Yes, because mind already creates out of this some food for itself. It is like, oh, so nice, I'm having this great experience. Okay, so now let's do some fun and so forth.
Yeah.
So you added it to your own image. Now you are this spiritual, you are this, oh, you had this great experience, and now, so, and this, eventually these games will be seen, and there will come this feeling that this is really empty. Like before you were feeling fulfilled by these games, that's why mind is playing them. At some point, they are actually seen as suffering. It is like you cannot stand anymore playing games. So there is only this fire of truth. You cannot stand playing games anymore. It is just unbearable. Yeah.
Mind games.
Yes.
seems to me like if you want, maybe I'll try in Hebrew.
Yeah, okay.
נראה לי שאם אין, זה לא משנה, כאילו, אם לא עושים את המהפך טוטלי, אז כל עוד אני לא עושה את המהפך, אין לי תחושה שכאילו אין שינוי בתשתית הבסיסית, יש לי עדיין אמונה שהילד שלי הוא שלי, שאני באופן בסיסי ראשוני, והמהפך קורה, כאילו, תמיד יהיה לי אחזות, תמיד יהיה לי סבל, תמיד יהיה לי נדידה לעתיד, לפחדים, תמיד יהיה לי, ואני מבינה שכמה שעוד פעם ועוד פעם ועוד פעם ועוד פעם ועוד פעם אני מביטה במים ויודעת שהוא רק מחשבה, שיוצא רגש, אבל אני עדיין לא מרגישה שזה מתחיל ממש להתפורר או להתחיל...
Can I answer in English or...
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe, no, I prefer Hebrew.
Hebrew, okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I can't wrong.
I'm sorry.
No
Okay.
problem. Really.
Because it's already hard to understand it, so another language.
כשאת אומרת שאת רואה שזה רק מחשבה, האם זאת מחשבה, שזאת רק מחשבה, או שזו ראייה ישירה? האם זה נראה באופן ישיר, מיידי? האם המחשבה רואה את עצמה כמחשבה, או שהיא יוצרת את הרעיון אודות עצמה שהיא רק מחשבה? מבינה את ההבדל? המחשבה צריכה לפגוש את עצמה באופן ישיר כמחשבה. זה לוקח זמן להגיע לישירות הזו. צריך קודם כל להתנסות בה. כן, קודם כל המחשבה יוצרת לעצמה את הרעיון שהיא רק מחשבה. אבל זה לא יכול לשחרר אותה, כי זה, שוב, היא עדיין החושב נמצא שם, עדיין אני, החושב לא נחשף. הוא עדיין לא נחשף. ברגע שהמחשבה יודעת את עצמה כמחשבה, פה יש בהירות. והבהירות הזו היא תתפשט והיא תמיר את המציאות לאט לאט, לא בבת אחת. אבל ברגע הזה עצמו כבר, כל התשתית הזו היא מאבדת מכוחה. ברגע שהמיינד רואה את עצמו כמיינד, שהשכל רואה את עצמו כשכל.
כן.
ממש עכשיו, כשאת מדברת, תשימי לב האם זה שמדבר יכול לראות את עצמו. כי כבר מאחורי המדבר יש את הדמות, את הדימוי של עצמך כזו שמדברת. האם המיינד יכול להישיר מבט עכשיו ולזהות, לראות, לחשוף את המהות של עצמו כמחשבה. וברגע זה תראי תהיה דממה, פשוט דממה. ברגע הזה כבר לא תהיה התשתית...
כאילו רק משהו אחד שהמיינד אומר לי. אוקיי, אני מוכן לוותר על הכל. הכל. שלא יאהבו אותי, זה לא חשוב לי. לא, הכל. אבל אל תפגעו בילד שלי.
מי זה אני הזה?
כאילו משהו כזה, מין איזשהו... אבל שהוא יהיה בסדר, שהוא יהיה מרוצה, הכל בסדר.
זה לא הילד פה
יש
שמשנה.
איזה בתנאי שהמיינד שלי, שאני שומעת כשאתה מדבר על ויתורים, לא על ויתורים, על לעשות... לשחרר נניח.
זה לא שם. עוד פעם, המיינד מסתכל על השדה הזה של ההתנסות שלו. ואז הוא רואה, כן, יש לי את זה, לא, זה אני לא...
בדיוק.
אבל הוא לא
וזה הדיבור.
אבל אנחנו לא מדברים פה, כל זה לא חשוב. זה חשוב. מי הוא זה שיש לו את כל זה? מי הוא זה שמרגיש שזה שייך לו, שהוא הבעלים של זה? זאת השאלה, האם הוא מוכן לחשוף את עצמו? גם אם הוא היה תיאורטית, משחרר את כל השדה הזה, 360 מעלות, הוא עדיין לא יהיה חופשי. כי הוא משאיר את עצמו.
אז אני אומרת, לא אכפת לי על עצמי, לא להשאיר את עצמי.
מי אומר את זה? האם הוא מוכן להשאיר מבט אל עצמו?
לא, אם אני משאירה מבט פנימה, על הפחד שלי, לשחרר את השליטה בעול.
כן.
אז אני רואה שיש טריטוריה כזאת.
כן.
שמה שהם
יש שם
מקומות
פרשנות.
אוחז, לא ישחרר.
מי אוחז?
רק חושב שצריך לשחרר שם, לא, אין מצב.
אבל השאלה היא מי חושב שהוא לא יכול לשחרר? לא מה הוא ישחרר, מי הוא זה שמרגיש שזה שלו בכלל? מי הוא זה שאוחז? האם הוא יכול לראות את עצמו? או האם הוא יכול לראות את עצמו? מי זה שאוחז? מי זה שמרגיש שזה שלו? כשאת אומרת הילד שלי, כן? יש כבר פרשנות של עצמך. האם הפרשנות הזו יכולה לראות את עצמה כפרשנות בלבד? פה לא מדובר על ויתור. זה לא שאלה של ויתור. זה שאלה של בהירות. אין על מה לוותר. כשיש בהירות אין על מה לוותר. כל עוד יש... הוויתור קיים רק כשיש עוד פעם, יש מישהו שצריך לוותר על משהו, יש שם שניים. אבל כשיש בהירות אודות המישהו הזה, כבר אין על מה לוותר.
כן, הוויתור אני מתכוונת, אני מוכנה לוותר על הכל, אני מתכוונת, אין לי אחיזה חזקה, או זה לא נראה לי דברים חשובים, שום דבר לא נראה לי חשוב, לא כסף, לא, שום, כאילו לא דבר, אפילו זה לא לגמרי נכון. אבל יש מקומות
רק תבחיני בעצמי הזה, שמרגיש שבכלל מתחיל את כל הפרספקטיבה שעכשיו תיארת, מאיפה זה בכלל מתחיל? החיים שלי. זה כבר בתוך החיים שלי, בתוך האני הזה, שיש את כל האובייקטים האלה שאולי חלקם אני מוכנה לוותר, חלקם לא. אבל מי בכלל, מאיפה זה מתחיל? מאיפה ההקשר הזה בא? האם יש אפשרות להישיר מבט לשם? האם השכל יכול להסתכל על עצמו תוך כדי שהוא מגדיר את עצמו כזה שיש לו את כל זה, שמסתכל על החיים ככאלה, שמפרש אותם ככאלה. אתה רואה? זה לפני, זה היסוד עצמו, זה הבסיס עצמו, של מה שמרגיש לך כאני, כמקום האינטימי הזה, אני. מהו האני הזה? מה המהות שלו? האם השכל יכול להישיר מבט לשם? בלי פחד. ממש עכשיו. המציאות הזו שבתוכה את יכולה לוותר או לא יכולה לוותר, היא כבר פרשנות של העצמי הזה. זה מה שחשוב לראות כאן. אז זו לא שאלה מה לעשות במציאות הזו, היא כבר פרשנות. השאלה היא לחשוף מאיפה הפרשנות הזו צצה, מאיפה היא מקבלת את התוקף שלה. האם אפשר להעיר שמה? האם השכל יכול להעיר שמה, במקום הראשוני הזה, שבכלל צץ כל ההקשר הזה?
אני מנסה לעקוב אחרי ההכרה שלי, אחרי המיינד שלי במשך היום. ואני כל הזמן מתערבבת ושוכחת בחיים. צריכה לעשות את זה, צריכה לעשות את זה, צריכה לעשות את זה, צריכה לעשות את זה. וצריך זה רגע, ומה עם זה? זה דומה מאוד לשאלה שלך, שאת שאלת קודם בשבילי. כאילו, עסוקה במחשבות ועוד לא מספיקה, או בארגונים, או לא יודעת איך לקרוא לזה אפילו. כל מיני מטרות פשוטות. תכליתיות, צריך טק, מבין, אז צריך זה,
עכשיו תיזהרי כשאת אומרת מטרות פשוטות תכליתיות. יש שם מטען שהוא לא פשוט ופונקציונלי בכלל.
נכון. בדיוק בזמן הזה אני הולכת לאיבוד, אני לא מצליחה לעקוב.
נכון, כי...
אני עוקבת רק כשאני נופלת כבר לרגש.
נכון.
עוד לפני שם...
כי המוטיבציה שם היא יותר חזקה מהמוטיבציה לבהירות.
מוטיבציה לתפקד?
זה לא לתפקד, זה לבנות את העצמי דרך התפקוד. התפקוד תמיד פשוט, לא משנה מה.
יש איזה עצמי שמעבר לדמות שלו, שצריך שהוא בכוננות.
זה לא יכול להיות מעבר לדמות שלו, זה הדמות שלו. These motives in daily life, the motives to do things right. Right, what does it mean, right? It means like you interpret them. In the way that you will be fulfilled with them. You will be happy with them. And this creates tension. Because function itself is simple. But when you want to make sure it will be your way, then it's no longer simple. Mm-hmm. Then there is tension. Otherwise, function happens, you don't even notice. You can wash dishes all day, you don't get tired. But when there is this narrator that constantly reflects itself doing this, and then wants to things, measures how long it has until it's done, for example, then every moment is like an hour. Yes? So just notice this one, if you want to. The reason why you don't notice this is because those motivations are now stronger than the desire, than the intention for clarity about this one. Basically, in other words, this suffering, the inherent suffering of being this entity, of being you, is not yet fully experienced. Understand? It is not seen as suffering in all its movements. It's like you seeing that part is suffering, but the other part is okay. And then, in those other parts, those motives are very strong. But when you will see that any part you play, any role you play, anytime you are wearing this identity of being you, is already a suffocation. It is like you actually begin to experience it like this. Yes? Not physically, but yeah? Then there will be this fire of inquiry. Then this seeing will happen more and more constant, because the motivation to have clarity about this will be stronger than any other motivation. So currently there are other motivations which are stronger. So they have to fulfill themselves.
It's also like I forget, or I'm distracted by life, or I'm involved.
Yes, but again, involved means something is resonating stronger than this. It's resonating stronger. It's pulling you because there is a promise there. There is some kind of promise. It is subtle. It may not be conscious even. You understand? Some kind of promise is there. Otherwise, you are not being pulled. You are pulled where there is a promise. Can you see it? Can your mind see this? That there is some value put there in those activities where you are very strongly attached. There is already some value happening, some interpretation of value. Mind is already charging it with some value. It appears to be important. Yes? So then, when it happens, instantly all the system is tuned to this. So when the clarity about this very movement of mind will be first priority, because it will be seen as suffering whatever it does, even when it is doing activities which it is happy about, which are pleasant to it, yes? There will be a feeling of suffocation, of emptiness behind them. Then this motivation will be strong. When this will be strongest, when this fire of inquiry, of clarity, will be first priority, then slowly all those other motives, they will drop. They will no longer pull you so strongly. But for now, just keep noticing. Just keep noticing. Try not to create any concept about this. For example, don't create any concept of being pulled. Like you are that one which is pulled, which is falling asleep. You see, this is just going deeper into sleep. Because now not only you are being pulled by those activities, you are also resonating with your concept about it. Now you create a concept about you who is defined by this falling away, by this falling asleep, you understand? Be simple about it. Yeah, okay, if you fall asleep, so to speak, okay. Just when noticing is possible, let it be noticed, and that's it. Just let it be noticed, just let it be seen. No interpretations, not creating yourself through the seeing, not judging yourself, oh, I was falling, you see, avoid this. See this as just thoughts appearing. Noticing is all that is needed. Slowly through this noticing, this clarity will be intensified. It will turn into a greater fire by itself. Just keep noticing and accept all those places where you don't notice. Just accept it. Don't fight it. Don't judge it. Don't create any opinion about it, about yourself. And by leaving it in this simple state, in this simplicity, you will see that you have much more energy, much more attention is freed. Because every time you react to this, every time you react to falling asleep, for reacting, for being pulled, it is like you pour gasoline into the fire. So, but if you don't pour gasoline, then this fire, while still burning, it will slowly get smaller and smaller. I mean, this time I mean the fire of being pulled, the fire of being involved, yes. Because we constantly pour some gasoline inside by reacting, by creating a notion of ourselves through this, that it's burning so strongly. But just by simply noticing, it will slowly get smaller and smaller and smaller. And there will be more free attention, more space to notice. This noticing will happen more and more often on its own. See the value of noticing on its own. It is a value of itself. You don't notice in order for something to happen. Let this be a value on its own. If you can metaphorically speak, fall in love with this clarity, yes? For just being clear on this clarity of what takes place. Clarity about the here and now, clarity about the functioning of this very mind. Yes? Don't demand anything more. Don't try to achieve anything through this noticing. Don't create another idea that you are reaching somewhere through this. Yeah? We learn to appreciate ourselves and life in general according to some kind of values that, again, mind has been conditioned with. Can we appreciate life and ourselves just by the fact that it is? Just by the fact that it is. Can we see the love in this? That love is this appreciation itself of life, of ourselves, this very presence, just as it is, without or before any identity, any definition comes into play, before any descriptions come into play. Just life as it is, just our presence as it is, before we know anything about it, can we see the beauty of it, the value of it? Can we not ask for more? Or should we say, can we see who is asking for more? Can we see this play, this game that the mind is playing, asking for more, which is a response to its own idea about what is here? And can we just see the wonder, the beauty? Not because, but because it is. Not because it is something, not because it has some certain value, some certain characteristic, but just by the easiness of everything, by the easiness of ourselves, can we find this value. Because if we can, then we can be simply present to ourselves, and we can slowly let go of this neurotic mind trying to capture this. There will be no need for a substitute, because this is a substitute happening. Mind is substituting the value of what is here. It is creating a substitute. So if we can value this just by the very easiness of existence, then there is no need for this. This substitute will start to be seen as unnecessary, as completely unnecessary addition. Then you will see you can just be, and it no longer matters what is the activity happening, how mind describes this moment, even if it appears there. Suddenly the value of this easiness itself will shine through. It will be seen stronger and stronger. And also you will see that with other people, you will start to feel that just their presence is enough. You will feel natural love for another being just because he is, not because he is something, because you think something about, because he has done something, or anything, any kind of idea you might have about human being, you will feel there is love prior to all of this, prior to any description, any functioning. Just the very presence is enough. And you yourself will find that just by being present with another human being, with someone, is enough too. Then you will see how your mind will slowly be more and more ready to be quiet, because it will no longer need to substitute this transmission of presence with speech, with ideas. Then this I, which will jump into the frame, will be suddenly not in place. It will be seen not in place. Because this presence is already so beautiful. Just to share presence, there is no need for anything more. Then this movement of mind will be exposed. It's really, really not in place, unnecessary. And you will feel like not only you don't need love, but you will feel that you are love just by being this presence, sharing your own presence, valuing this very presence by its very easiness and not by its descriptions and values that the mind has put in. You will see that you are love, and this love is sharing itself with everything. It will not be a game of love, a game of give and take. It will be really this immense reality of love, existence, which is love. This beingness is a gift, no matter what happens. You see, mind has so many ideas. Things should happen this way and this way. This is right, this is wrong. But see how ridiculous that is. This is already a gift. Everything else is a bonus. This is already a gift. This is already a value on its own. It is immense. It is immeasurable. Mind cannot appreciate it.
The bad things are also just a bonus.
What?
The bad and difficult things
Yes.
are also just a bonus.
Yes. Yes, they are. They are pushing you to the full realization of your beauty, of your immensity, of your freedom. But when this is not seen, when this is not recognized as a value on its own, when mind constantly working on a substitute to somehow create a meaning to this, then this is lost, this recognition is not there. then only this game is going on, and it depletes all this beautiful life force, all this energy.
If you know that, if you're already very much familiar with the daily pitfall that you fall into, it's like every day you fall in the same ones, and you can't stop. This is how I feel. Then, what sort of advice would you give me if I know that I keep falling in the same ones, and something is missing to avoid them? Or if I already find myself inside this pitfall?
There is only one pitfall. Don't be confused. You see, there is a confusion there. There is only one pitfall, and this pitfall is the idea of I, from which all other pitfalls sprout. Just notice the appearance of this notion I in you. That is the only pitfall. There are no other.
Yes, but not always I can do that. I mean, for example, when something triggers a reaction of some sort, which is almost immediately translated into an emotion, and I'm already sensing this emotion, I'm already identified with it, then what would you advise me?
Whenever you can, just again notice the source of this experience, because its source is always the same. There is some kind of self-interpretation, self-idea, self-context happening and triggering everything else. It is this context which is in contact with something. And this contact is creating this conflict. I am this, or this should be like this, is coming in contact with it is not like that, and so forth. And this creates this reaction, this chain of reactions. So just notice, whenever it is possible, the root of this. The root is always the same. You are not just this pure conscious presence, you are somebody. And this somebody is already in conflict with something which is not itself. If you can always look, so to speak, inside, so to speak, let mind look at itself. If you do this, then any situation will result in clarity. But if you look externally, if you avoid this seeing, if you ignore this and you look for the reasons outside of you, if you have this belief that someone else is to blame, circumstances are to blame, something should happen, and your attention is moving outwardly, then it will just bring more and more confusion. So really, if there is this understanding that there is always only one direction in which clarity can be found, then you have the ultimate key for all life situations. It doesn't mean that they will result as you want them to. Just be careful here. Don't create the concept that if you apply this, then suddenly all life situations will please you. It doesn't mean that. It's another concept. But it means that all life situations will reflect who is the one that is involved in them. So it will result in clarity about yourself. It doesn't mean that the unpleasantness will be instantly gone. You may still experience pain, some emotional struggle, some heaviness, whatever life gives you. And there must be acceptance of that. If there is no acceptance of that, then there will be struggle.
I got the answer. I'll try to ask again.
Okay.
Each state is also energetically felt in the psychological sphere. So sometimes I feel that even though I know that something has started the chaos of the mind and the reaction follows thoughts, and I notice that, but it has its own momentum and I don't seem to be able to stop it. It has to finish.
Be careful. Who said you should stop it? You see?
This is what I believe I should do.
Exactly. So this motive is acting. That's why there is no clarity about the one who is involved. Don't try to stop anything. Just be clear. Just notice the one that is creating all this tension, including the desire to stop it.
But there is so much judgment there. It's like, why is it happening again? It
Yes,
should
they are
happen.
all applied to the same root. They are all branches of the same tree. Just notice the root. They are all branches of the same one.
So how does the learning happen?
You see, you have already created the learner. Already the one who should learn is created. Just see the motive there. What does it mean? It means there is an idea of someone who will benefit from this and will not suffer later. You see? In an instant it is created. How will I learn means, how will I not suffer next time? Isn't it? Yeah. So, see all of these motives rising and investigate, again, to whom do they come? Who is the one behind them? You see, it is the same game, only different heads.
Yes, so if it's so complicated and no one is there to tell me, look, so how I'm doing it to myself?
So now you're
Without-
here,
without
now,
judgment.
now you're being pointed to it. But eventually, if you apply it, you will be your own teacher. Because what is speaking here is no different than what you are. It is the same intelligence. So you just, if there is this fire of finding out, of reaching this clarity, then you will become your own teacher. You will no longer need anyone to remind you. Anything that will happen will remind you. The tiniest things, the minute things will remind you. There will be constant learning, but there will be no student.
I'd like to come back to what you said previously about love.
Yeah.
It erased immense fear. Now it's very intense. I don't know if I have really a question of how to. I don't feel love in general. I felt, I experienced once ultimate love, unlimited love in the system. It changed all the self, everything was transformed by that. As I speak, I just feel dryness. I just feel touch.
So, whatever you feel right now, you are defining yourself through this. How do you know that there is no love here?
Because probably I have an idea of what should be love.
Yes, exactly. So why not try to leave this alone? Leave this presence which you are alone. Perhaps this presence itself is love. If you trust your mind to tell you what love is,
I'll never find
you will never get an answer. It has no idea, trust me. But perhaps
I know it
love
very-
is already here, you see?
Mm.
Perhaps when mind stops touching this moment, this defining this, what is here, perhaps love is revealed then. Perhaps all there is love then. Because what is love? You see, it is this unconditional presence, which is sharing itself with everything. Aren't you this? Aren't you just this presence now, that is knowing itself and sharing itself unconditionally? Before mind says that you are this and this and that and that, you are this sharing presence, which is love. So if you don't capture this in the mind concepts, perhaps love will shine on its own.
Contraction.
You're feeling a contraction. Yeah. Can you just notice this, but not interpret? That's all that is needed. Then this contraction will not become you. It will remain a contraction,
I see.
and this clarity will free you. Yes. Because there is a contraction, and immediately mind creates a concept, it shouldn't be here. It's already creating the observer who is looking at the contraction and wants to push it away. So it never reaches this clarity. Just noticing this without a noticer, yes, without the one looking. Then there will be just space, and this space you may find out it is love. This very space. Truly, you see, it is impossible for you to be not love. It is simply impossible. Even if you try to, you can't. If you want not to be love, you just have not to be, which is impossible. Because your very being is love. But, like we said before, mind is simply incapable of appreciating this magnificent mystery. This reality is not what we have been told, it is not what our mind is telling us. See, dare to see this, dare to live this, to be this. Yes. What if this moment, this life, this existence, what is taking place all the time, it has nothing to do with what you know, with what you think, with what you have learned? What if it is a complete, pure mystery, untouched by all of this knowledge? Can you dare and live it and be it? Can you not approach it through fear, but approach it through trust? Can you surrender this attempt to understand and trust, be this?